Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I think we did our introductions already. So I'm going to move on to the next slide and introduce myself. My name is Barry Haughey. I'm from Ireland. I'm an art educator and artist of about 20 years working in the non-formal education sector. I've always been really interested in digital media and how it can be harnessed within a non-formal educational context. About 5 years ago, I tried on an Oculus Go, and it literally blew my mind. It blew my mind as an artist, it blew my mind as an educator, and I immediately could see potential in how immersive technology could be used for wide regional youth work and education. So around that time, I started to kind of talk to colleagues, and they weren't that interested in the idea of a virtual youth space, a virtual classroom. But in the lead up to that, we arrived at COVID. And all of a sudden, my phone started to ring around this crazy idea that I've been talking about and how we can use this technology to open up when Ireland was going through lockdowns. So in September 2020, using the now redundant Oculus Go headset and the now redundant Altspace VR, we opened up a national youth space. We connected 40 young people to experienced youth workers and educators, and it proved lots and lots of the ideas that I'd already had in the fact that we could connect with young people who were historically and traditionally overlooked by existing youth and education services. So that's kind of where it got really interesting, and I got a call from a team in Meta in California, and they were really interested to learn a little more about how we've been using their equipment for social youth and education work in Ireland. That conversation went on to be a nomination to Meta's Immersive Learning Programme, and they donated quite a few headsets to that particular project. I had started looking at Natari, which is Finland's fully online youth service, and Natari had been opening their digital doors for quite some time, and I looked at that from the context of how we can make regional and national services for young people wide using immersive technology. So that's kind of where it started. That's the background on me, and I'll hand over to Mia next, where the next stage went.
Okay, yeah. I'm Mia Hanstrom. I am a director for a small regional organization, NGO organization in the Åland Islands. And as you see at the map, we are just in between Sweden and Finland. We are an autonomous area with around 30,000 inhabitants, and our regional organization works in this small, as you see on the other map, these red points with small islands, very few people living on the islands, and especially very few young people. So we have a special task to make activities for those who live in this situation. This is my bosses, because it's a youth-led organization, so the board is young people between 14 and 24 years old. And I think one of our success thing is that combination of experienced youth work, me and my other teams, and with the young people's experience together. And our project, when we then connected an expert in something that we didn't know even existed before, was really good for our project. So we started, our main activities is camps, because that is the only way to connect youngsters from different islands. They have to sometimes travel 8 hours for meeting on a weekend. So when Barrett introduced VR as a possibility for some kind of meetings, I thought that this is something that we shall really do. And when I came back to the board and told about this, they said, yes, this is interesting. We need to find money for buying some equipment, and we reorganized the budget and bought 8 equipments and borrowed some also, and started a pilot project for that. So that is the background, and now I will discuss with Julia and Kasper, who is both board members and in the pilot group, about our project. So my first question to you is more about what your general experience is why did you attend the project? Why did you think it was interesting to come? So, Kasper, you can start.
So I was already kind of interested in VR and stuff like that even before I heard of this project. I'd never tried it, but I really wanted to. So when I heard of this project, I was really excited and really wanted to be a part of the project. So I immediately signed up, and it's been really, really great. And yeah, I'm glad I did.
Yeah. And Julia, you had a little bit other in way into the project.
Yes, so actually Mia told me about this project and kind of forced me into it, but it's been a great few months. We've worked on this pilot project. We've learned a lot, and
yeah, what has been the hardest for you in the project, you think?
so in the beginning it was to get the headset, because of course we live on different islands, so it's with the transport, but
and then about the equipment and
so yeah, learning all the controls is obviously kind of difficult. For the first time I ever played with a VR headset, like all the buttons and controls, and in games also making profiles in the platform, and yeah, like creating stuff in, for example, Rec Room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Barry, you didn't tell about the platform. Maybe you say something about where we are going.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, the context. Myself and Mia first met at a youth working conference back in Estonia around this time last year, and I delivered a workshop there around the huge opportunity to explore immersive technology for wide regional education and youth work. Based on existing platforms, multi-user platforms, providing they're appropriate, they're multi-user, and they can open private events. I have been road testing quite a number of these platforms that can be harnessed for wide regional education and youth work. So myself and Mia first had a chat around this time last year, and that set in motion several ideas based on my work in Ireland and looking at a regional youth space for the Åland archipelago. So I suppose some of the main points that we had to do, we had to find equipment, and we had to find the right platform that could be used, which in this case was Rec Room. And then we had to kind of look at young people, participants, but also training up existing youth workers and being proficient communicators within that platform. So there's a little bit of work to do before we actually went live. The good news is that it went really well, and after a certain period of time, the young people very much took over the reins. And for me, what got really interesting is digital platforms are now a space that young people can actually be the ones who are building their experiences and where the youth work and education happens. So that's kind of where it started. And what I kind of was able to bring to this conversation was tried and tested activities that work within these contexts. How can we youth work in digital and immersive environments? What works, what doesn't? How do we open up a session? How long does the session last? Key things that we can kind of aim towards achieving in each event, such as opening and closing circles, having a whiteboard where people can construct a group contract, for example. Again, this is all wide regional and potentially connecting with young people who may not have the opportunity to connect with a youth service or a youth conversation in person. So that kind of set the scene, and I think Mia very quickly bought into the vision. And the great news at the far side of this pilot is that we've been able to demonstrate that young people from across this wide region of Åland archipelago were able to connect with existing and experienced youth workers in this time.
Yeah, I will ask Kasper a little bit about what do we do at the platform, and what do you think have been the biggest challenges?
So we do like all kinds of stuff. So we're currently building like a youth club virtually in Rec Room. So we're building like a big room with every kind of stuff. So what we do in VR is kind of like play tennis, talk, play together, and paint stuff, and like you can basically do anything. And it's been really interesting to be able to like be social with people without actually having to travel to them. So that's kind of been one of the best things about it.
And Julia, what do you think have been very interesting to do at the platform, and what has been like, wow, this was something very special?
I mean, all the games have been like very fun, and learning to use those maker guns have been fun. I'm not very good with it yet, but it's nice to be able to create anything virtually, and also being able to meet my friends online, because as Kasper said, it's very difficult traveling all the time. At the camps, it takes like a really long time, but with VR, I can meet them instantly. So I think that's been like one of the things I enjoy the most. Like, we can just meet for an hour at a time.
I think one thing that has been really strong for us is that we as youth workers have learned at the same time as the youth, because then we get so much faster to a better position and can develop things much better. And we also, when we are such a small organization, we also invited some friends in a municipality to attend, both with some youngsters and with some youth leaders. So we are a bigger group that learn together. So that I will also say that has been really a positive thing. So what do you think about possibilities for the future? What is happening now in the project?
Yeah, so obviously with VR we can have like better collabs with other people from different places, as we don't have to like meet them in real life. I think there's like a lot of possibilities to create new stuff for youths, and as this is like something new for people to use, there are a lot of opportunities for the youths to learn to handle new technology and to meet new people in different ways.
Yes. Yeah, the pilot group now, you can tell a little bit, Kasper, you have been one of those who are building spaces. What are you doing now when you're building a new? We went out from the first pilot place and now we're starting to build an own meeting place.
Yeah, so basically we're like, all of the youth in the project are together building like a space to meet up and hang out and talk and be social to each other, so it's a very good thing to do. So instead of like taking a ferry 2 hours to another island to meet your friend and 2 hours back, and like it's really hard, so it's much easier if you can just meet in some place that you build together and play games and do stuff.
And I know that you said before that sometimes it has been hard to what is all the possibilities and what is good, but how do you find new activities in the rec room space?
Yeah, so you can just sometimes browse different games and just play around and try stuff, and then if you find something cool you can tell your friends about it and ask the leaders or like youth workers to try to use it for youth work.
We have tried to have a structure. It doesn't work all the time, but when we meet, we try to have a circle and check up what has happened the last week. Kasper always has some tests that he has done, for example, and Julia, who is now educating as a chef, can tell something about what has happened in her school, and so we have a check-up, and then we work with building things, and then often play in the end something together. But we are now also trying to work with mindfulness. So the next step will be to introduce some kind of mindfulness, and we have a psychologist that we are introducing to VR, but also about participation, which is one of the things that we are working a lot with in all our other activities. We will also try to introduce that into our like digital meeting place.
Yeah, I wanted to say a thing that with VR, it's like a really nice thing that we can come together and build stuff together. It's not the same if we were on a camp in real life, where we will have different workshops, but having workshops in, for example, a rec room is also really nice, because, I mean, we can basically do anything with our creativity. There are a lot of games we can play together, so yeah.
Yeah, and we also will use other possibilities like Erasmus Plus youth exchange we will have, and then we will invite other youth from other places to learn about this, and then we can hopefully meet each other also after that kind of activities. We will make a lot of possibilities. I think the hardest for us is that the equipment still is so expensive. That is very hard. Yeah.
Yeah, what I would add to that is, I think with the growing number of young people who are already in digital spaces, and I suppose the slow evolution of existing youth and educational services to move with that demographic, there is a growing need for existing professionals to start upskilling in how to be virtual communicators across wide regions, to move with this technology when it becomes a lot more accessible for a start, but also to explore new ways to connect with young people across wide regions in safe, creative, fun, supportive digital spaces. We now know from the Åland pilot that these immersive environments are very close in experience to the real thing. For example, you can see here, we had some fun playing Uno. The bad news is that I can't really cheat in this game. But the connection is there, the fun is there, and certainly if it's a safe, private event, the youth service, the education can go and connect with those young people who are part of that group in increasingly immersive and supportive ways. So going forward, I think there's a growing number of multi-user platforms that can be used. Rec Room is just one, and Rec Room is just being the pilot platform. We are looking at other apps such as Gravity Sketch. I've been trying out Horizon World at the moment in Ireland, and it's absolutely fantastic from an educational perspective. But I think the amount of activities that we can collaboratively do in immersive spaces will increase and has already grown in the last 12 months or so. So it's an exciting time, and it's been an absolute privilege to be working with the guys over in the Åland region, and I think they've really been demonstrating on a Europe and global level how existing youth services can evolve with this technology and bring young people with them.
Yeah, and I will also say that for us that not even tried this kind of possibilities before, it has been so good to have someone that can help us to find out how to buy equipment, how to make the project, how to introduce new young people, which we will do now. We are just sending out to our schools that those of the youngsters who are in the 8th and 9th grade can apply for being a member in pilot number 2. So it's really fun. Now it seems like we have done our 20 minutes. Is it like that? Yeah. We were a little bit late. So
I don't want to put some pressure. So if you want to keep on talking, please do so. But we'll keep at least 5 minutes for the Q&A so that people in the audience can also just ask specific questions that you could be answering.
Yes. So I will also say that if someone wants to see what we are doing when we have Youthwork, we had made 6 minutes film about that, and also about our pilot project, because we understood to tell other people about the VR project, it's almost impossible to if they haven't tried the VR possibility. So this is from that. So yeah, if there is any questions, otherwise we can speak more.
But before that, please a round of applause for our speakers. I mean, I always think that it's good practice to thank for such insightful discussion, and also it's good for us to shake a bit our hands so we wake up and we can be ready to ask good questions, or bad, up to you. So without further ado, who has a question? Can I? Yeah, I will borrow a mic. But while I'm doing that, I also want to highlight the fact that we're talking about a complex problematic, because we assume that we all live in big cities and that the density is high and that we all can reach out to our friends and families or just walk to their place. But this is not the reality of many people. And I think this kind of project is putting a light onto it and showing that we need to build technologies that are inclusive and that are also considering every reality as much as possible.
Having said that, I agree with you, of course. I was wondering how many people are actually encompassed or included in that pilot 1 or pilot 2? How many people are we talking about here?
In the pilot 1, we had 8 youth from the beginning and 4 leaders, yes. Yeah,
Right.
4.5.
And each one of them had a headset, in
Yeah,
fact?
they borrowed a headset during
Yeah,
the
of
pilot
course.
project, and we will continue with that concept that they and their parents are signing a contract and they get the headset to have it at home.
Yeah, so extension of such a project to include 8th and 9th graders that may or may not apply, hopefully in larger numbers, will very much be limited by availability of technology, affordable technology.
Yeah, and I know that in Mariehamn, which is the bigger place in Åland, they are now discussing with the library if they could have some kind of cooperation. So if they have young people that wanted to attend also to our activities, it could be maybe possible. We are not there yet, but we are working on it, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question? Just to give a perspective of numbers, I checked the population density of Austria is 106 people, and population density where they live is about 16 people per square kilometer. So this shows a little bit of how challenging it is to be exchanging.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I came in a little bit late, but I have a question around, I saw a tab about international collaboration, something you're looking to do in the future. From your perspective, what does that look like in an ideal world? Like, what are you looking for in potential collaboration partners?
Yeah, there's already been some pilots from Ireland that I have been part of. So youth entrepreneurship, for example, using multi-user environments at that particular project was Outspace. So being able to bring in existing kind of information boards and things like that. So there's a template already there for global collaboration. The bigger kind of hurdles is around appropriate times based on time zones and less about actual, fluency in being avatars. So I will miss Outspace for that reason, because you had a lot of control over how that environment looks and dressing it. In terms of steps to making a pilot happen on a global collaboration would be around onboarding champions from each site. So it would be ideally an educator from each site who would then train up a young person or young people who would represent that hub or that site for the collaboration space. The great news is that there's a growing number of existing platforms. I'm going to name Spatial for one, that you can have a persistent session, for example, and use that as your common space, for example, and maybe bring in 3D LiDAR scans of an object from your locality that would represent your conversation and community. So there's so much that we can already do to weave an educational and youth work conversation in a global project, for sure.
So just to put some keywords here, so inclusive technologies that are also affordable, connection, collaboration with international partners, putting down or lowering the cost of the hardware. Anything else, or someone would like to add some elements to this? Yes, please. And also personal insight. I also come from a place where this kind of technology is either not affordable or not available. Therefore, I can definitely relate to the pain.
Thank you. Thank you so much for a really interesting session. I just have a question for Julia and Lucas. What games did you enjoy playing the most together? And if there was a game that you really could be playing together that doesn't exist, what would that be?
Yes, so Mia mentioned I'm a chef, and I recently found a game in Rec Room that's like a restaurant, and I don't think we've ever played it in our sessions, so I was going to recommend it to us to play. So yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, and I really enjoy the game paintball in Rec Room. Yeah, even though it can seem kind of a waste of money just for youth to play some cooking game in VR together for thousands of euros, it can be really, really needed, because if you don't really meet people otherwise, it can be very valuable for the youth.
All right, so on these wise words, let's give a round of applause to our speakers.